The arena shook with sound. Roars, stomps, alien drums, everything echoed in Jaren Colt's ears as he stepped onto the cracked stone floor.
Up.
Above him, thousands of alien eyes watched from giant metal stands. The crowd was made of different species, some tall, some small, some with eyes glowing like fire. But all of them looked hungry for blood. Jaren wasn't afraid. He had trained for this. He was Earth's champion. In the center of the arena, standing tall and calm, was an alien warlord. His armor was black with red claws on the shoulders. His eyes glowed gold. He raised his hand, and suddenly, silence fell. Then he spoke. "Human," the warlord said loudly, "you came to represent your world. You stand alone. No army, no fleet, just you." Jaren nodded. "That's enough," the crowd murmured. Some laughed. The warlord pointed across the arena. A gate opened slowly, with a loud creak. And then she stepped out. She was tall. Almost as tall as Jaren. Her skin was silver, smooth like polished metal, and shimmered under the light.
Eyes
Were violet. Her long white hair fell down her back. She wore a dark bodysuit, simple, but it showed she was not weak. She was a warrior. The warlord's voice echoed again, loud and clear. "Win this trial, and she's yours." The crowd erupted in wild cheers. Jaren blinked. "What?" He turned to look at the alien woman. She didn't flinch. She didn't speak. But her eyes locked on him. Not with fear, not with shame. No, she stared like she was studying him, testing him, measuring something inside him. The warlord smiled. "She is Kalira, one of our strongest. The law says a champion who wins the trial may take a mate from our people," she agreed. "If you win, she is bound to you." Jaren frowned. "She's not a prize, isn't she?" the warlord said coldly. "You'll find out soon." Before Jaren could respond, another gate behind Kalira opened. The sound made the ground shake. Jaren turned and his smile faded. From the gate came something massive, a beast. Its skin was dark red, covered in thick plates like armor. Its mouth was wide, full of long, sharp teeth. It walked on 4 legs, each step making the arena floor rumble. Its eyes burned yellow. Its claws dragged across the stone, leaving deep marks. The crowd screamed with joy. The warlord raised his hand. "Begin." Kalira stepped aside slowly. She didn't look at the beast. She just kept her eyes on Jaren. It was like she wanted to see what he would do. Jaren took a deep breath. "All right, big guy, let's dance." He pulled out his weapon, something simple. A shock staff built by Earth's engineers. Not very powerful, but fast. Good enough if you stayed smart. The beast roared and charged. Jaren ran forward, slid under its belly, and hit its side with a sharp electric strike. The beast howled in pain but turned fast. It wasn't slow. It wasn't dumb. The second charge was faster. Jaren barely dodged in time, rolling across the ground as claws slammed where his chest had been. He jumped up, breathing hard, trying to think, and then something strange happened. The beast stopped. Its head turned. Slowly. It looked at Lira. Kalira still hadn't moved. She stood straight and silent. Her eyes locked on Jaren, but the beast was staring at her. "What is this?" Jaren muttered. The warlord stood from his throne. He looked confused, too. The beast growled deep, but it didn't charge Jaren again. Instead, it took a step toward Kalira. Jaren shouted, "Hey, over here!" But the beast didn't care. It moved toward her slow at first, then faster. Kalira still didn't move. Jaren didn't have time to think. Sprinted across the arena and leaped, slamming his shock staff right into the beast's eye. The creature screamed, throwing its head side to side. Kalira finally stepped back, blinking like she had been somewhere else. She looked at Jaren, surprised. The beast turned again and renowned, charged at both of them. This time, Jaren and Kalira stood side by side. She reached behind her back and pulled out twin energy blades. Without a word, she nodded at him. And, for the first time, Jaren saw something strange. She wasn't scared. She wasn't angry. She was impressed, and maybe, just maybe, she wanted him to win. The arena was still buzzing after the fight. The crowd had watched with open mouths as the human Jaren Colt stood his ground, not just against the beast, but beside Kalira, the warlord's face was unreadable, but his eyes were sharp now, colder. Jaren wiped sweat from his face, breathing heavy. The beast lay still behind him, smoking from the energy wounds. Kalira stood near, silent, her twin blades still humming faintly. Then, she turned to him not as a reward or prize, but as an equal. "You interfered," she said calmly, her voice smooth but edged with something sharp. "I saved your life," Jaren replied. "I didn't ask for that." Jaren shrugged, half smiling. "You're welcome." She didn't smile back. "The beast was part of my trial," she said, "not yours. The warlord gave you a test. Yes, but he gave me one too. It was to stand still, to show no fear, to let it approach and wait for the command to strike." Jaren's grin faded. "So, ... I messed it up." "You ruined it entirely," she said flatly. But then her eyes softened, just slightly. She added, "And saved me from being ripped in half. So, perhaps we are even." Before Jaren could answer, the warlord's voice echoed again. This match was not complete. The beast was for the girl. The next fight is for the human. Jaren looked up as a new gate creaked open, but no beast came out. Kalira stepped forward, eyes locked with his again, this time with fire. "I will fight you," she said simply. "What?" Jaren blinked. "Why?" She moved in a slow circle around him, blades at her side. "Because that is the rule. If I am to become yours, if you are to become mine, there must be a final test. You fight, one-on-one, skill against skill, will against will. No death, just decision." Jaren's grip tightened on his shock staff. "You really want to do this?" Kalira nodded. "I must. The others are watching. They won't respect you if you don't earn me fully, and I won't accept a mate who hides behind pity." She stepped closer, slowly, her voice softer now. "Besides, I need to know if you're strong enough, not just in body and heart." Jaren swallowed. The arena grew quiet again. Even the crowd sensed something strange. This wasn't a simple show anymore. Something else was building between them. Tension, maybe, but not hate. Something older, more complicated. The warlord raised his hand again. "Begin." Kalira didn't strike first. She waited. Her posture was perfect, balanced, trained. Jaren had seen fighters like her before. On Earth, in the military academies. She moved like a soldier, not a performer. He stepped forward carefully. No wide swings. No sudden charge. He moved like water, letting instinct take over. When Kalira finally moved, she was fast, too fast. Her blade kissed his sleeve before he even realized she'd shifted. "You'll have to do better than that," she whispered. Jaren grinned again. Was just warming up. The next few minutes were a blur of motion. His shock staff sparked, her blades flashed. He struck and dodged, circled and countered. No anger, just testing, watching, learning. And slowly, without words, they began to understand each other. Kalira fought like someone who had never been allowed to lose. Every movement was clean, practiced, powerful. But Jaren? He fought like someone who had survived the impossible, dirty, clever, and unpredictable. He faked a stumble, baited her into a swing, then twisted and disarmed her left blade. But she responded with a spin kick that sent his staff flying. Now, they were both weaponless. They stared at each other, chest rising, breath heavy. "You've been trained well," she said. "And you've got moves," Jaren said, smiling. "Do you yield?" She asked. "Do you?" She gave a slight smile for the first time. "No." Then she rushed him again. But this time, he caught her. Not with a strike, he grabbed her wrist and spun her. They locked, close now, face to face. He didn't press harder. She didn't resist. And then something shifted. Not in the arena. In them, the crowd, fell completely silent. "I don't want to win you," Jaren said softly. "I want you to choose me." Kalira studied his eyes. Her lips parted slightly as, if surprised by something, by honesty, maybe. By the fact that he wasn't playing the game anymore? "I already have," she whispered. Before either could move, the warlord stood again. "That is enough," he said, voice hard. "The fight is over." Jaren and Kalira stepped apart slowly. The warlord's tone was tight. "Cold, you impress me, human. But this story is far from finished." Jaren raised an eyebrow. "You sound like someone who's not used to surprises." "I don't like surprises," the warlord replied. "Especially not when they come with sharp tongues and soft hearts." He gestured to the guards. "Take them both. The next trial begins tomorrow." As the guards surrounded them, Kalira leaned close to Jaren and whispered one thing. "They will try to break us. Be ready." And with that, they were led away. Not enemies, not strangers. But something new, something dangerous, and something very, very real. Jaren sat on the cold metal bench of his cell, his back pressed against the wall. The room was dark, small, and filled with an odd chemical scent. Alien tech buzzed in the corners. Drones, heat sensors, things he couldn't name. But he didn't care about them. He was thinking about her Sungal quotes. Lyra, the way she moved. The way she watched him like she was seeing deeper than skin. She was more than a fighter. More than a prize. And definitely more than what the warlord claimed. He wasn't sure what was happening between them, but he knew it wasn't fake. The door hissed open. 2 alien guards entered, both tall and armored in dark green scales. They didn't speak, just gestured. Yeah, I'm coming," Jaren muttered as he stood up. "Let me guess, another fight." He didn't answer. They led him down a long, curving corridor, the walls glowing with faint red lines. He passed other cells, some empty, others filled with different species. All were watching him. He could feel it now. This wasn't just a test for him. This was a show, a game. And someone somewhere was betting on how long the human would last. He was led into a wide chamber. Not an arena this time. Something older. The ceiling was domed, the walls lined with carved symbols. In the center, a square platform glowed. Faintly, looked ancient. Sacred Kalira was already there, standing at the edge. She wore no armor, now just simple, dark training clothes. Her long white hair was tied back. No weapons, no war paint. Just her. Jaren stepped closer. She turned and nodded slightly. "This is the bonding arena." "Bonding?" he asked. "In our culture," she said quietly. "When 2 warriors wish to form a union, physical or otherwise, they are tested here. Not in blood, not in death, in trust." Jaren raised an eyebrow. "So this isn't a fight." She tilted her head. "Not with weapons." He looked around. "I don't see anyone watching," they are, she said. "Through walls, through machines. But this moment is for us." Jaren stepped onto the platform. Immediately a blue shimmer rose around them like a dome. Energy hummed through. The air, Kalira faced him. "You must not lie. You must not strike in hate. You must not step off the stone or the ritual fails." Jaren nodded slowly. "Understood." Then she stepped closer than before. Her breath was warm. Her violet eyes locked onto his. She spoke first. "Why did you truly come here, human? Why join the trials when Earth could have sent anyone?" Jaren blinked. Then he spoke, honest and slow. "Because I didn't trust anyone else to speak for. Us. Not with words. Not with blades. Humanity isn't just strength, it's choice feeling. I wanted someone to see that." Kalira stared for a moment, then nodded. "My turn," Jaren said. "Why did you agree to be the warlord's prize? Doesn't sound like you." Her face darkened. "I wasn't given a choice," she said. "The warlord wanted to punish me. For denying his son, he made me part of the mating trials to shame me, to make me seem owned." Jaren's jaw clenched. But she continued, stepping closer. I saw your name in the challenge list. I read your records. I watched your old trial footage. And I thought, maybe, ... just maybe you were different. He looked into her eyes. And now? I'm not sure, she said quietly. But I want to be. Suddenly, the light around the platform shifted. It glowed gold. Kalira placed a hand on his chest. If we touch now, we accept each other. No turning back. Koran hesitated. Not out of fear, but out of weight. He didn't take her hand lightly. He took it anyway. The dome flared with light. Deep vibration ran through the chamber. Then it all vanished. The platform dimmed. The doors opened. The warlord stepped in slowly, surrounded by elite guards. His eyes narrowed as he looked between them. So, the human thinks he's one of us now? He asked. Jaren didn't answer. Kalira stepped forward. He passed the ritual. I see that, the warlord said, voice tight. But the bond is not enough. The people demand war. They want a final test. Kalira spoke coldly. They've had enough tests. But the warlord ignored her. Tomorrow, he said, turning to Jaren, you enter the maze of flame, alone. Jaren frowned. That's not in the rules. I make the rules. Jaren looked to Quoteslira. She said nothing. But her hand found his. They weren't just two warriors anymore. And when he entered the maze tomorrow, he'd carry more than a weapon. He would carry her hope and the fire of something real. The sun on this world didn't rise. It pulsed. A burning red light shimmered across the sky, never fading. Always glowing like the entire planet was stuck in the middle of a slow, angry heartbeat. That was how Jaren felt as he stood at the entrance of the maze of flame-like. He had stepped inside a living, watching thing. The walls of the maze towered 30 feet high, formed from molten black stone that oozed faint trails of steam. Glowing red veins ran through them like fire trapped beneath skin. The air inside was thick, dry, almost hard to breathe. Jaren had no weapon. That was the first rule. No map. No gear. No water. That was the second. The third. You get 1 hour, said the warlord from the stone platform above. Survive the maze, and you leave with her. Fail, and your bones stay here, just like the others. Kalira stood behind the warlord, silent but burning with emotion. Her fists were clenched. Jaren looked up at her only once before stepping. Through the gates, he didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The gates slammed shut behind him. At first it was quiet. Too quiet. Just the sound of his boots on heated stone and his own breath. Then, the maze shifted. Not physically, but in his mind. Every corner looked the same. Every path repeated. And the heat, it pressed against his skin like it wanted to melt his thoughts. He walked slowly at first, marking turns with tiny scratches using a piece of metal he had hidden in his boot. But the scratches faded fast. The heat closed the wounds in the walls like skin healing itself. This place wasn't just fire and stone, it was alive. Minutes turned into long stretches of panic. Time didn't feel real. Jaren wiped sweat from his brow. His throat was dry. His vision shimmered. Shapes moved at the edge of his sight, too fast to be real, too real to be ignored. Then he heard the scream. Not human, not Kalira, but something close. Jaren followed the sound. It led him deeper, around sharp corners and down narrow tunnels, until he reached a chamber circular, glowing red. And in the center, bound in fire-threaded chains, was a creature. Not fully alien, not fully machine. Its body was made of scarred flesh and glowing circuits. Its face looked too much like a soldier. One of Earth's Jaren approached, cautious. Hello? He asked. The thing turned its head slowly. You human. I rasped. You're not supposed to be here. I could say the same. Trap, the creature said. They use the maze to study you, break you, test your mind, not just body. Record your fears, your heart. Jaren knelt down. You're from Earth, was the creature muttered. Trial number 42. I failed. Broke. Jaren felt a chill that had nothing to do with heat. "What do they want from us?" he asked. "Not death," the creature whispered. "They want surrender of the soul." Jaren stood up, heart pounding. He stepped away, but the creature grabbed his ankle. Its grip was weak, but its eyes were begging. "Don't let her become like me." That was all. Then it faded, collapsing into ash and dust. Jaren ran. He didn't care about directions now. He didn't care about the rules. He just ran, faster, harder, his mind racing. This wasn't about trials. This wasn't about winning Kalira. This was about control. They wanted him to break not because he was weak, but because Kalira had chosen him. Because she defied their laws. Because she dared to love a human. That's what the maze was really for, too. Punish her? Jaren reached a dead end. But he didn't stop. He punched the wall once, twice, a third time. The wall cracked, not from strength, not from truth. The maze responded to thought, to will, to resistance. The cracks glowed blue. Jaren stepped back, breathed in and shouted, not in fear, in defiance. "I'm not here to win her like a prize. I'm here to fight beside her." The wall shattered. He stumbled into a final chamber where Kalira stood alive, free, but surrounded by armed guards. Her eyes widened as she saw him. The warlord was there too. He clapped once. Slowly. "You were supposed to break," he said. "I'm not yours to break," Jaren replied. Kalira stepped beside him. Her eyes burned now, not with rage, but with choice. "I won't be owned," she said. "Not by law, not by fear, not by you." The guards moved in, but Kalira was faster. She moved like fire. Her blades reappeared in a flash. Jaren backed her up, using his fists, elbows, knees. The guards didn't expect it. 2 warriors, 1 alien. 1 human moving like a single storm. They weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to be free. When it was over, the guards were down. The warlord had vanished into the shadows. The maze behind them collapsed, and Kalira turned to Jaren. "You weren't supposed to survive," she said softly. He smiled, even though he was shaking. "Then it's a good thing I don't follow rules." She stepped closer. This time when her hand touched his chest. It wasn't part of a ritual. It was real. "Then let's break all of them," she whispered. And together they walked out. No longer fighters, no longer challengers, but partners. In a game far deeper than either of them had ever imagined, and the galaxy was about to find out what that meant. The halls of the warlord's fortress trembled. Beneath their feet, Jaren and Kalira ran. Side by side, their shadows long against the firelit walls. Smoke rose from the shattered guards behind them. Alarms screamed across the compound in a language Jaren didn't understand, but fear was universal. He could see it in the faces of the soldiers as they scattered, unsure whether to pursue or hide. They weren't used to rebellion, especially not from one of their own, especially not from her. Kalira led him through a hidden corridor carved into the bones of the fortress. It was old, far older than the arena, older than the trials. She moved fast, her breath steady, like she'd memorized every twist years ago. "This was once a path of escape," she said without turning. "Back when our people were free, before the warlord came." Jaren followed without question. The heat from the maze of flame still clung to his skin. His body ached, but something inside him burned brighter, stronger. He wasn't just surviving. Anymore, he was choosing. They burst through an ancient door and into a dark chamber filled with blue light. A massive console blinked with old runes. Kalira ran to it, typing rapidly. The system resisted at first, then gave in. "This will open the shuttle bay," she said. "We get to the landing platforms and we're gone." "Gone where?" Jaren asked. She looked at him. "To my people, the ones still hiding, still waiting. They've never seen a human." Jaren raised an eyebrow. "They trust you?" "They trust me more than the warlord," she said. "But if we don't show them something stronger than fear, they'll never rise." Suddenly, the chamber shook. The floor cracked. Dust fell from above. Kalira frowned and turned to the console again. Her fingers flew across the controls. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "What? The warlord?" He locked down the outer doors. "Can't open them unless I bypass the core," she said. "But if I do that, the security field drops and the fortress defense system resets. They'll think we're intruders." Jaren stepped beside her. "How long do we have?" 3 minutes, she said. "Maybe less." Another rumble hit. Louder this time. Jaren moved to the secondary panel. "Tell me what to do," Kalira paused. Then she shook her head. "There's no time for both of us. One of us has to stay and trigger the bypass manually." "No." She looked at him. "You have to go. Get to the shuttle. They see you with me, they'll listen. You're proof that unity can work. That a human can fight with us, not above us. That I didn't choose wrong. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice." He stepped closer. "We don't do that. On Earth, we don't leave people behind." Kalira's face softened. "You think you're the only one who cares?" She leaned forward, rested her forehead against his. "I care too. That's why I'm asking you to run." Another tremor hit. Sparks flew from the ceiling. The countdown on the console flashed red. 142 remaining. Jaren looked at the control panel, then at her. He made his choice. "I'm staying." Her eyes widened. "No, yes," he said. "You're the one who can lead your people. You know this place. You know what's coming. But me? I'm just a loud human who won't shut up and hates cages." He reached into his boot and pulled out the thin power coil he had salvaged in the maze. "This plugs into the primary command slot," he said. "You'll need it to fly the ship." Kalira stared at it in his hand, then slowly took it. She didn't cry, she didn't beg, but something in her eyes brokened, reformed stronger. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Jaren forced a smile. "I'm too stubborn to die." The countdown read 0:53. She turned to go, stopped at the doorway, and looked back one last time. "I didn't want a mate," she whispered. "I wanted an equal." Jaren nodded. "You got one?" And then she was gone. The chamber hummed with power. Jaren turned back to the console and began typing fast. The security core fought him, trying to block his access, trying to purge the commands. He slammed the bypass code Kalira had shown him, then crossed the wires with the coil from his. Boot.0:09. The screen flashed green. Doors across the fortress opened. The power grid failed. The lights went out. Jaren stood in the darkness. Chest heaving, he'd bought her time above him. The sounds of a shuttle engine screamed through the broken ceiling. Kyalira was free, and so was hope. Somewhere across the stars, a war would begin. Not of blood, but of belief. That humans and aliens didn't need to fear each other. That love didn't need permission, that one choice could change everything, and maybe, just maybe, she'd come back for him. Or maybe he'd find a way out, because, like he said, he was too stubborn to die, and this wasn't the end. The shuttle tore through the upper atmosphere, its engine screaming like it carried the weight of two hearts, one left behind, one unwilling to forget. Kalira sat in the pilot's seat, her hands gripping the controls tighter than she needed to. She didn't cry. She wouldn't. That wasn't her way. But behind her fierce violet eyes, a war raged. Jaren was still in the fortress. He had given her the only way out, trusted her with escape, and chosen to stay so she could lead. Now, she had no choice but to become the symbol he believed in. The shuttle pierced through the clouds of her homeworld, a shadowed planet called Vortal, hidden behind magnetic storms and ancient satellites long thought dead. Few ever came here, fewer left. Below, in the mountain hollows, her people waited, scattered survivors of a proud warrior. Race now forced into silence and shadow by the warlord's rule, as the shuttle descended onto a rocky, cliffside landing pad. Dozens of figures rushed out to meet it. Her people, tall, silver-skinned like her. Some bore weapons, others tools. But all of them stopped when they saw her step out alone. No warlord's collar, no chains, no guards, just Kalira standing proud. One elder stepped forward. "You escaped. broke their maze, she said. And I broke their rules, crowd murmured. And you returned, the elder added. Not in exile. In challenge I return with a purpose, Kalira said. And with a reason to fight. She held up the small memory core from the shuttle Jaren had encoded their entire trial journey on it. The beast, the arena, the maze, the warlord's lies. Everything. The elder took it slowly, watching her, and the human. Kalira's voice cracked, just for a second. He stayed behind to give us this chance. They fell silent. Then the elder nodded. Then we owe him a war. Within hours, the plan took shape. Kalira had spent years inside the fortress system. She knew its weaknesses. The outer defenses had reset after Jaren's override, which meant there was a window small but real to strike. And this time, it wouldn't be just her. Hundreds of her people once broken, hiding now prepared for battle. She wasn't leading a rebellion, she was leading a return. She stepped into the command tent, adjusting her shoulder armor. The room smelled like metal and energy cells. A young fighter barely past her first growth cycle stood up. Kalira, we're ready, but we don't have enough weapons. The warlord's soldiers, Kalida, interrupted her. We won't outgun them. We outthink them. That's what the human taught me. We use what they don't expect. What don't they expect? Kalira's eyes burned. Hope. By nightfall, the rebel force moved. Their ships, old, barely working skimmers, flickered in and out of the canyons like ghosts. Kalira rode at the front, her eyes scanning the fortress horizon as it rose out of the mountain like a dark crown. The gates were still open, thanks to Jaren. They entered in silence. The rebels splitting off in teams. Kalira headed straight for the core where the warlord's command center sat like a spider in its web. Guards spotted them. Fights broke out, blades clashed, bolts flew. But this wasn't like the arena this time. Kalira didn't fight to survive. She fought to win. She tore through soldiers like lightning, her twin blades flashing with precision. Her people followed, their old instincts awakened. This was their world. These were their walls. And Kalira. She was no longer the warlord's discarded prize. She was their future at the core chamber. The warlord stood waiting tall, armored in obsidian steel, his golden eyes filled with contempt. So, he sneered, you return. With children and scraps, Kalira stepped forward. I return with something you've never had. He tilted his head. What's that, partner? Before he could speak, a deep hum rose from the far wall. The door split open, and there he stood, Jaren bruised, bloodied, but alive. The warlord turned, stunned. Impossible. You stayed? I'm too stubborn to die, Jaren said, his voice like gravel. He tossed a power cell onto the ground. It lit the chamber in a blast of blue. The warlord was forced back, shielding his eyes in that moment. Kalira struck. Her blade cut through the command lines behind the throne, disabling the security core. Sparks flew. Screens died. The fortress screamed. Outside, the rebel ships broadcast the signal. The warlord has fallen. The bond is broken. We rise. Soldiers dropped weapons. Some fled. Some joined. And in the center of it all, Kalira and Jaren stood side by side, back to back, breathing hard. She turned to him, her voice low. I thought you stayed behind. I did, he said. Then I realized I wasn't done annoying you. She laughed, a real laugh this time, and without words. She touched her forehead to his. They didn't need a ritual. They had the truth and a galaxy watching. Asterisk. had passed since the fortress fell, but the fires of rebellion hadn't stopped burning. They had only just begun. The warlord's banners were torn down, one by one. His image, once carved into the very stone walls, was smashed, wiped away by the people he thought would always kneel. The fortress was no longer a prison. It had become something else entirely, a home. Kylira stood atop the high wall, her silver armor stained with soot, blood, and defiance. The breeze swept her long white hair back as she looked down at the valley below. Thousands had gathered. Her people, warriors, workers, elders, and children, many of them still blinking in disbelief. They were free. Not because she had begged for mercy, but because they had chosen to rise. Behind her, control doors opened with a familiar hiss. Jaren walked in, his right arm wrapped in a bandage, a limp in his step, but a grin on his face that refused to die. "Figured I'd find you up here," he said. She didn't turn at first. "The view's better from here. Looks like hell." She finally smiled. A beautiful kind of hell. He walked up beside her, stood quietly for a moment, both looking out over the people cheering below. "They're calling you the bonded flame," he said. "Has a nice ring to it." She rolled her eyes. "They always name things. It helps them feel in control. You are in control." "No," she said, her voice soft. "Not anymore, not alone." She turned toward him. "The moment I stepped into that arena and saw you standing there, confused but unafraid, knew things were about to change. But I didn't know how much." Jaren nodded. "Let's be honest, I thought you were going to kill me." "You're lucky I didn't," she said. But the corner of her mouth curled upward. He reached into his side pouch and pulled out a small device. With a tap, it projected a holomap of the outer systems. "I made contact with the Earth Council," he said. "They watched the final battle from orbit. They've agreed to send support teams. No weapons, just medics, tech engineers, food, supplies. They don't want a war. They want peace." She studied the map, then looked at him. "And you?" "I want whatever you want," he said. "But I'm not going back to Earth. Not yet." "You'd stay here?" she asked. He chuckled. "I'd stay in a burning crater if it meant standing beside you." Kylira reached out and gently brushed her hand across his cheek. "You never fought to win me, Jaren. You fought with me. And that's what made you worthy." She looked out again. "Our people, they don't know how to rebuild. They only know how to survive. But maybe that changes today. Maybe survival isn't enough anymore." Jaren shrugged. "It's a start. But it won't be easy." She looked at him sharply. "Was it ever?" He laughed. Behind them, footsteps approached. It was one of Kylira's generals, young, armored in gold and black, her eyes sharp with questions. "The council is waiting," she said. "They want to hear your decision." Kylira nodded. Jaren started to step back, but she grabbed his wrist. "No," she said firmly. "You come with me. Not as an outsider, not as a trophy, as my equal." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "They might not accept." She stepped closer. "I don't care," she whispered. "Let them learn. What I already know, true strength isn't about power. It's about choosing someone who makes you better. And I chose you." She leaned in, and for the first time since the trial began, she kissed him, not in secrecy, not in fear, but openly. In front of the entire rising world, the cheering grew louder below. Later that day, Kylira stood before the Council of Elders, her voice clear and firm as she announced the formation of a new alliance between Earth and Vortal. No more blood trials, no more prizes, no more forced bonds, only chosen unity, only willing hearts. And beside her, Jaren stood, bandaged, bruised, but unshaken as her partner. Her shield and her proof that love didn't need to come from the same stars to change. Everything. Somewhere in the crowd, a child asked, "Was the story true? Did he really win her in battle?" And an old warrior replied, "No, he didn't win her. She chose him, and he earned her. Not with fists, but with fire." The end.